Have you ever woken up with the strange feeling that life is already ahead of you? Like the world started moving hours before you even opened your eyes? Opportunities passing by? People progressing, while your own life feels stuck in the same place? Here's the uncomfortable truth most people never talk about. The problem might not be your intelligence. It might not be your job, your background, or even your motivation. It might be the first hour of your day. Because while most people are hitting the snooze button, there are others quietly using those early morning hours to redesign their entire future. And today, you're going to hear the story of one man who discovered this the hard way. A man who felt completely stuck in life. Financial pressure, no direction, and the growing fear that nothing would ever change. Until one simple decision, waking up earlier than everyone else, started a chain reaction that transformed everything. But here's the surprising part. It wasn't the early mornings themselves that changed his life. It was what he did during them. And once you see what happened next, you may never look at your mornings the same way again. Most people wake up already feeling late for their own lives. Not late for work, not late for an appointment, but late for something deeper. Like the world started running long before they even opened their eyes. There's this quiet sense that opportunities are moving somewhere out there, and somehow, they're always just a few steps behind. Morning alarms ring, snooze buttons get hit, and the day begins in a rush. Coffee gets gulped down instead of enjoyed. Phones light up with notifications before the mind even wakes up. Emails, messages, responsibilities, everything demanding attention at once. Before long, the day feels less like living and more like surviving. And the strange part is, this happens to millions of people every single day. They're not lazy. They're not incapable. Most of them once had dreams that burned bright. Plans, ambitions, ideas about the life they wanted to build. But somewhere along the way, the days started slipping by unnoticed. It's subtle at first. One rushed morning becomes a week. A week quietly becomes months. Then one day you look around and realize life feels stuck in place. Like you've been moving all day, but somehow going nowhere. Many people carry that feeling in silence. They smile at work, laugh with friends, scroll through their phones at night. But inside, there's this quiet question that never fully goes away. What if I'm capable of more than this? What if my life could actually look different? Sometimes the frustration shows up late at night. The house gets quiet, the world slows down, and that's when the mind starts wandering through uncomfortable thoughts. Dreams once imagined now feel distant, almost unrealistic, not impossible, just somehow out of reach. The truth is, most people aren't lacking ability. They're lacking control over the beginning of their day. When the morning starts in chaos, the rest of life often follows. And slowly, without realizing it, the days start controlling them, instead of the other way around. But every once in a while, in the middle of this silent struggle, there's someone who begins to notice something isn't right. Someone who starts asking a dangerous question. What if the problem isn't my life, but how I start my mornings? And that's exactly where this story begins. His name could have been anyone's. An ordinary man living an ordinary life in an ordinary neighborhood. The kind of person you'd pass on the street without thinking twice. But inside his mind, a quiet storm had been building for years. A storm made of frustration, doubt, and unanswered questions. Every morning felt the same. The alarm rang too late. The room still dark. His body heavy with fatigue. He'd reach for the phone before even sitting up. A quick scroll through social media, watching other people's progress unfold. And just like that, the day began with comparison. His apartment was small but decent enough. Bills stacked neatly on the corner of the kitchen table. Nothing dramatic, just the slow pressure of living paycheck to paycheck. Some months he made it through comfortably. Other months felt like walking on a financial tightrope. Work wasn't terrible, but it wasn't inspiring either. The kind of job where the hours pass slowly and the clock becomes your best friend. He showed up, did what was expected, and went home. Deep down, though, he couldn't shake the feeling he was meant for more. Friends would sometimes say, "You've got potential, you know," and he'd nod politely, forcing a small smile. But potential can feel like a strange compliment, because it quietly implies something uncomfortable, that the life you're living isn't the life you're capable of. Some evenings he'd sit quietly on the couch after work, the television playing in the background, barely noticed, his mind drifting through half-finished goals and abandoned ideas, business plans once scribbled in notebooks, courses he once promised himself he would complete, and there it was again, that quiet voice inside, the one that whispers late at night when the world gets quiet, "You're capable of more than this." But another voice quickly answered back, "Maybe, but maybe it's too late." Still, something about his story hadn't finished unfolding, because the real struggle wasn't just his job, his finances, or his routine. It was something deeper hiding inside his everyday life, a pattern so normal he barely questioned it, and that pattern would soon reveal itself. Most days for him didn't begin with intention. They began with reaction. The alarm would ring later than it should, and the first emotion wasn't excitement. It was urgency. He'd jump out of bed already feeling behind schedule, like the day had started without him. The morning rush became routine. Quick shower, half-eaten breakfast, shoes on while grabbing keys. His mind wasn't calm. It was scattered, already thinking about emails, deadlines, responsibilities waiting at work, and the sun outside seemed to rise faster than he could catch up. On the drive to work, the traffic felt like a mirror of his life. Cars packed together, everyone moving but barely progressing. Red lights appearing at the worst possible moments. He'd stare out the windshield, lost in thought, wondering how so many days could feel so identical. At work, he wasn't failing. In fact, he was doing just enough to stay safe, just enough to keep his position, just enough to avoid problems. But deep inside, he knew just enough was slowly draining his spirit. The strange thing about feeling stuck is that it rarely looks dramatic. From the outside, everything appears normal. He paid his bills, he showed up on time, he kept life moving forward. But inside, frustration had started to grow quietly. It appeared in small moments. A sigh at his desk, a tired glance at the clock, a subtle jealousy when someone else shared good news. Promotions, new opportunities, exciting projects, all things he once imagined for himself. Evenings didn't bring relief either. After work, exhaustion wrapped around him like a heavy coat. Instead of pursuing ideas or learning something new, he defaulted to comfort. Streaming shows, scrolling endlessly, letting the hours slip away unnoticed. Tomorrow would be different, he often told himself. But tomorrow always arrived looking exactly like yesterday. Same alarm, same rush, same feeling of chasing a life that stayed just out of reach. Until one quiet night, something inside him began to shift. For a long time, nothing seemed dramatic enough to force change. Life wasn't collapsing. There was no sudden disaster, no shocking event. Just the slow repetition of days that all looked the same. But sometimes the most powerful wake-up calls arrive quietly. One evening he stayed late at work finishing a project. The office had grown almost silent, the lights dimmer than usual. Everyone else had already gone home. He leaned back in his chair, rubbing his tired eyes, and for a moment, the stillness forced him to think. Earlier that day, his manager had announced a promotion. A younger co-worker had been chosen for the opportunity, someone with less experience, less time at the company. Yet somehow that person had stepped forward while he remained in place. The applause in the meeting room still echoed in his mind. He tried to convince himself it didn't matter, but the truth was harder to ignore. It wasn't jealousy that hurt the most. It was the uncomfortable realization behind it. Someone else had taken a chance he never did. That night, he drove home slower than usual. The streets were quiet, streetlights reflecting across the windshield. His mind replayed the last few years of his life like a film. Missed ideas, delayed goals, postponed decisions. All the moments he told himself, "I'll start tomorrow." When he finally stepped into his apartment, the silence felt heavier than usual. No distractions, no noise, just him, standing there with his thoughts, and a question he could no longer avoid. What if nothing ever changes? He walked to the window and looked out at the sleeping city. Thousands of people living their lives, chasing their goals, and suddenly a realization landed with uncomfortable clarity. If he kept living the same way tomorrow, his future would look exactly like his present. That thought hit harder than any failure ever could, because it revealed something simple but powerful. His life wasn't stuck because of bad luck. It was stuck because nothing about his daily pattern had changed. And that realization would soon push him toward a decision he had never seriously considered. That night didn't feel dramatic on the outside. No music, no applause, no sudden breakthrough moment. Just a man standing quietly in his apartment, staring out at the city lights. But inside his mind, something important had shifted. For the first time in years, he stopped blaming life and started questioning himself. He walked over to the kitchen table and sat down. The same table where bills had piled up month after month. The same place where he once wrote goals that slowly faded into forgotten plans. His fingers traced the surface of the wood as he thought, and a strange clarity began to settle in. Maybe the problem wasn't that he lacked ability. Maybe it wasn't bad luck or unfair circumstances. Maybe the truth was simpler than that. Maybe he had just been drifting for too long, moving through life without ever truly steering it. The realization felt uncomfortable, but also strangely empowering. Because if drifting had created this life, then direction could create another. And direction always begins with a decision, not a perfect plan, just a decision that something must change. He didn't suddenly know what his future looked like. He didn't have a detailed roadmap or a master strategy, but he understood one thing clearly now. If tomorrow looked exactly like today, then tomorrow would lead to the same life. So he made a quiet promise to himself, not the kind people post online, not the kind announced to friends or coworkers, just a private commitment made in the silence of a small apartment. I'm going to take control of my life. At first, the promise sounded almost too simple. What does taking control even mean? Does it mean changing careers, starting a business, moving to another city? Those ideas felt too big, too distant, but deep down he sensed something important. Massive life changes rarely begin with massive actions. They begin with small shifts repeated consistently, small decisions that slowly reshape the direction of a life. And somewhere out there, hidden inside a simple idea he hadn't yet discovered, was the first step that would change everything. A small habit practiced by people who seemed to move faster in life. A habit connected to the quietest hours of the day, hours he had almost always slept through. A few days passed after that quiet promise. Nothing dramatic changed yet. He still went to work, still followed his usual routine. But something inside him had shifted. Now he was paying attention to things he once ignored. One evening, while scrolling aimlessly through videos online, something caught his eye. It wasn't flashy. No dramatic music, no exaggerated promises. Just a calm voice talking about something simple. The power of starting your day before the world wakes up. At first, he almost skipped it. "Yeah, right," he muttered quietly. He had heard plenty of motivational advice before. Most of it sounded exciting for 5 minutes and then disappeared. But for some reason, this message felt different. The speaker described mornings as the hidden engine of successful lives. Not because waking up early was magical, but because it created something incredibly rare in modern life. Uninterrupted time. Time where the mind could think clearly. No emails, no notifications, no urgent responsibilities pulling attention in every direction. Just quiet space to focus on what truly mattered. And the idea stuck with him longer than he expected. Later that night, curiosity pushed him further. He began searching for more stories. Entrepreneurs, writers, athletes, creators, people from completely different backgrounds. Yet many of them shared one unusual habit. They protected their mornings like treasure. Some used the time to read. Others planned their day with intention. Some simply sat quietly reflecting on what mattered most. But the pattern was impossible to ignore. And suddenly he began to see something clearly. His mornings had always started in chaos. Rushing, reacting, chasing the day from the moment he woke up. But what if the opposite approach created a different life? What if control started at sunrise? The idea felt simple, almost too simple. Just waking up earlier than he normally did. But simple habits often hide powerful consequences. And deep down, he sensed something unusual. This might be the missing piece he'd been searching for. The idea sounded simple at first. Wake up earlier. But the more he thought about it, the more he realized something important. Waking up early by itself wouldn't change anything. What mattered was what happened during those quiet hours. So instead of treating it like a random experiment, he built a small system. Nothing complicated. No extreme routines or impossible expectations. Just a few intentional actions to guide the beginning of his day. Actions that gave direction before the world demanded his attention. The first part was silence. When he woke up, he resisted the urge to grab his phone. Instead, he sat quietly for a few minutes. No notifications, no scrolling, no rushing thoughts. Just breathing and letting his mind slowly wake up. The second part was reflection. He kept a simple notebook on the kitchen table. Every morning he wrote a few lines. What mattered today? What kind of person did he want to show up as? Some mornings he wrote about goals. Other mornings he wrote about problems he needed to solve. Sometimes he simply wrote one question. What's one small step I can take today? And surprisingly, the answers often came easily. Then came learning. Instead of social media, he spent 20 minutes reading or listening to something useful. Books about discipline, productivity, and personal growth. Ideas that slowly reshaped how he saw his own potential. Ideas that planted seeds inside his thinking. Finally, he planned his day intentionally. Not a giant, overwhelming to-do list. Just 3 priorities that truly mattered. 3 actions that would move his life forward. And suddenly, the day had direction. The whole routine took less than an hour. But it felt different from anything he had done before. The morning no longer controlled him. He was starting to control the morning. And that small shift would soon test his discipline in ways he didn't expect. The first morning felt like a negotiation with gravity. The alarm rang while the sky outside was still dark and quiet. For a moment, he just stared at the ceiling, half awake, half regretting the decision he had made. His bed felt warmer than ever before, and his mind quickly offered the easiest argument: just 5 more minutes. But 5 minutes had always been the beginning of surrender. He knew that pattern too well. One snooze became another became a rushed morning, and the entire plan would collapse before it even began. So he forced himself to sit up, slowly, reluctantly, like someone learning to walk again. The room was silent except for the faint hum of the city outside. No traffic yet, no noise from the world demanding his attention. That first morning routine felt awkward. His eyes were still heavy. His thoughts weren't sharp yet. Writing in the notebook felt slow and clumsy, but something about the quietness felt strangely powerful. The second morning was harder. His body complained loudly. The alarm sounded almost aggressive this time. His brain tried negotiating again. You can start tomorrow instead. This is where most habits die. Not because they are impossible, but because discomfort arrives faster than results. The mind wants immediate proof that the effort is worth it, and early mornings don't offer that proof right away. Still, he kept the promise he had made to himself. Alarm rings. Sit up. No debate. No negotiation. Just movement before doubt had time to grow. A small rule he quietly followed each day. And little by little, the battle at sunrise started to shape something deeper. Each morning he resisted comfort. His discipline grew slightly stronger. Each time he honored the routine, his confidence quietly expanded. Not dramatic, not visible yet, but something inside him was slowly changing. What he didn't realize yet was that these small, invisible victories were preparing him for something bigger, because the outside world was about to reveal the first signs that his life was shifting. Subtle at first, but impossible to ignore once they appeared. After the first few weeks, something subtle began to change. Not in his bank account, not in his job title, but inside the quiet corners of his mind. The mornings no longer felt like a battle. They felt like an advantage. The early hours started to feel different. The air seemed calmer before sunrise. The world outside his window moved slower, almost respectfully. And for the first time in years, he wasn't reacting to the day. He was preparing for it. His notebook began filling with ideas, some small, some ambitious. Plans he once ignored now had space to breathe. Problems that once felt overwhelming started looking solvable. All because he was finally thinking clearly. Something else began to shift too. His discipline. Before, motivation came and went like the weather. But discipline worked differently. It showed up even on mornings when he didn't feel like trying. And slowly, that reliability changed how he saw himself. At work, small differences started appearing. Nothing dramatic yet, but he arrived more focused than before. His mind was organized, his priorities clear, and people quietly began to notice. He started finishing tasks faster, solving problems others hesitated to approach, even speaking with more confidence during meetings, not because he suddenly became smarter, but because his mornings had sharpened his thinking. Outside of work, the changes were even more personal. Instead of collapsing onto the couch each evening, he had energy left. Energy to read, to plan, to improve skills he once ignored. The same 24 hours, but used differently, and that difference slowly compounded. Progress still felt invisible to the outside world. No applause, no sudden breakthroughs yet, just steady movement in a better direction. The kind of progress most people abandon too early. But one day, something unexpected would happen, a moment that would confirm what he had started to suspect. Those quiet mornings weren't just changing his routine, they were changing his entire trajectory. And soon, the first undeniable proof would appear. For weeks, the changes had been mostly invisible. Small internal shifts, subtle improvements in focus and discipline. Nothing the outside world could easily measure, but progress has a strange way of revealing itself when the time is right. And one morning, something finally clicked. It started with an idea, not a massive, life-altering revelation, just a simple solution to a problem at work, a problem the team had been struggling with for weeks. Yet somehow, the answer appeared during one of his quiet morning reflections. He wrote it down quickly in his notebook. The logic felt clear, almost obvious. Strange how ideas arrive when the mind is calm and undistracted. Before, his mornings were filled with chaos. Now they had become a space where solutions could surface. Later that day, during a team meeting, he hesitated for a moment. Old habits whispered in the background. Stay quiet. Someone else will speak. But something inside him had changed, and this time he decided to raise his hand. He explained the idea calmly, step by step, outlining the approach he had thought through earlier that morning. The room went quiet, not the uncomfortable kind of silence, the kind where people are genuinely listening. His manager leaned forward. A few coworkers nodded slowly as the explanation unfolded. The idea wasn't complicated. That was exactly why it worked so well. Clear thinking often creates simple solutions. Within days, the plan was put into action. The project started moving forward again. What had once felt stuck suddenly had momentum, and the quiet man who once sat silently in meetings had just become the reason things were moving again. No fireworks exploded, no dramatic celebration followed, but something subtle changed in the way people looked at him. Respect, curiosity, recognition, and he felt something even more powerful growing inside himself, because for the first time, he had undeniable evidence. Those early mornings weren't just a motivational experiment. They were reshaping how he thought, acted, and showed up in the world. And this small victory was only the beginning. What came next would change far more than his mornings. Months passed, almost quietly. No dramatic turning point anyone could point to. Just a series of mornings that kept stacking one after another. Alarm, silence, reflection, learning, planning. A simple rhythm repeated long enough to reshape a life. The changes became visible in ways he never expected. His posture was different now. Shoulders back, steps more deliberate. Confidence had slowly replaced the hesitation he once carried everywhere. People could sense it before he even spoke. At work, opportunities started appearing. Projects that once felt intimidating now looked like challenges worth solving. His ideas carried more weight in conversations. Colleagues began asking for his opinion. The same man who once blended into the background was now leading discussions. But the transformation wasn't only professional. His entire relationship with time had changed. Evenings were no longer wasted in exhaustion. He had built energy, discipline, and clarity from those quiet mornings. And that energy spilled into every part of his life. He started investing in himself again, reading more books, learning new skills that once felt intimidating, revisiting dreams he had quietly buried years earlier, dreams that now felt possible again. Friends began noticing subtle differences too. They'd say things like, "You seem different lately." Not dramatically different, just calmer, more focused. And when they asked what changed, his answer surprised them. It wasn't a secret strategy. It wasn't luck or a sudden breakthrough. It was something far simpler. He just started owning his mornings. The discipline of waking early had done something deeper than improve productivity. It had rebuilt trust between him and himself. Every morning he kept that promise. His confidence grew. Every sunrise became proof that he was capable of change. And that belief reshaped everything. But his story wasn't just about personal success, because hidden inside his journey was a lesson most people overlook, a lesson that anyone watching his story could apply starting tomorrow morning. A truth about transformation that almost sounds too simple to matter, and yet it changes everything. If you looked at his life now, you might think the transformation came from something dramatic, a lucky break, a powerful connection, some secret strategy only successful people know. But the real change began with something much smaller. It started with a decision made in silence, a quiet moment when he realized drifting through life was no longer acceptable. No audience, no applause, no immediate reward, just a simple commitment to take responsibility for his direction, and then to honor that commitment every morning. Most people believe life transformations begin with massive actions, quitting jobs, launching businesses, making bold announcements. But the truth often works the opposite way. Big changes grow from small habits practiced consistently, tiny actions that quietly reshape who you become. Waking up earlier didn't magically solve his problems, but it gave him something rare: Time to think before the world interrupted. Time to reflect on what truly mattered. Time to act with intention instead of reaction. And anyone watching this story could start the same way. You don't need a perfect routine. You don't need hours of free time. Even waking up just 20 or 30 minutes earlier can change your mornings. Those quiet minutes can become the most valuable part of your day. Imagine beginning tomorrow with a notebook and one question. What's the most important thing I can do today? Then writing down 3 simple actions. Not 20 tasks, just 3 meaningful steps. That small habit alone can shift your direction. Or imagine spending 15 minutes learning something new, reading a few pages of a book, listening to a podcast that expands your thinking. Ideas compound over time just like money does, and mornings are where those investments grow fastest. The deeper lesson is simple but powerful. The life you want rarely begins with a giant leap. It begins with small, repeatable choices. And often, the first one is surprisingly humble. Simply waking up earlier than you did yesterday. And somewhere out there right now, another person is waking up before sunrise, protecting those quiet hours, building the life they once thought was impossible. The question is, what will you do tomorrow morning?